Even though we hadn't seen each other for a month, Scene didn't say a word about my health and just demanded a divorce. I want a divorce from a wife who neither does household chores nor works. Don't expect any share of the property. That's what he said with a smirk on his face. Jessica was also grinning and clinging to his arm. I see, all right, divorce it is, I answered calmly. Scene looked surprised, but soon shared a smile with Jessica. Luckily, Scene's unreflective nature played into my hands, allowing my plan to proceed without a hitch. After the divorce, I began my revenge plan against them. By the time it's complete, my illness should be better. Their crying faces will be my celebration. I'm Sophie, 47 years old, an illustrator, and also a picture book author. I just love drawing. I have 2 childhood friends, Scene and Jessica, both very important to me. Scene is also my husband. It all started when, after graduating high school, I was the only one who went to a different university. That's when Scene asked me out. I had always thought he liked Jessica, so his confession took me by surprise. But I was secretly in love with him, so I was overjoyed. After some thought, I consulted Jessica before starting to date Scene. Jessica had been somewhat of a troublemaker since middle school, always coveting what belonged to others. Back then, she would steal other people's lovers only to discard them when she lost interest. This caused several issues, and her parents were worried. Still, for Scene and me, she was an important childhood friend, and we tried to spend as much time with her as possible. I married Scene at 25, but 4 years later, Jessica suddenly brought a fiancé, Matt, an excellent employee at a top company. Sophie, Scene, I've heard a lot about you from Jessica. I look forward to getting to know you better. He was a well-mannered man and soon became close with us. We would meet as a group of 4 during holidays, enjoying trips and searching for our favorite drinks. I thought our relationship was going well, but about 2 years after Jessica and Matt's marriage, our relationship started to crumble. It all began when Jessica got pregnant. Scene and I had decided not to have children. We admired families with children, but that was enough for us. However, Scene's behavior changed after learning about Jessica's pregnancy. He quit smoking, which he wouldn't stop even when I asked for health reasons, just because Jessica mentioned the smell. He even took paid leave to drive her to the hospital, clearly going beyond what a childhood friend would do. You know, if you stay too close to Jessica, Matt might feel uneasy. I warned him. But you're busy, right? It's terrible how indifferent you are, even when a pregnant childhood friend needs help, he retorted. I'm trying to help out, so I do the shopping, and when necessary, I run errands here and there. I think accompanying Jessica to the gynecologist is going a bit too far, though, I said to Scene, who frowned in response. Then he stared at me intently and answered with anger, Jessica wants me to do this. She says she's scared of the checkups. I can't let her go alone when she's feeling like that. If she's scared, she should have Matt accompany her. Going with her every time makes it seem like you're the child's father, I argued. You're not going to be pregnant anytime soon, so what does it matter? Scene dismissed my advice, becoming gradually more irritated, and finally snapped, Shut up. We rarely fought since our marriage, but ever since Jessica's pregnancy, we've been arguing more frequently. The situation didn't change after Jessica's delivery. Scene's time spent with her and her child, Mia, only increased. However, when Mia turned 5, an incident occurred. The night before Mia's preschool graduation, Scene was searching through the bedroom closet. What's wrong? Do you have a business dinner tomorrow? I asked, noticing his suit carelessly thrown on the bed. No, I'm deciding what to wear for the graduation ceremony. Wait, you're planning to attend Mia's graduation? Matt can't make it and Jessica asked me to come, he replied. That's just wrong, I protested loudly, causing Scene's expression to sour. I knew he sometimes picked up Mia from preschool, and I had also helped occasionally. That level of assistance was fine, but it was unusual for a father's friend to attend a graduation ceremony in his place, even if they were childhood friends. Are you still doubting my relationship with Jessica? I'm disappointed you can't be more supportive, he said. It's not about that, I said. Regardless of what you say, I'm attending the ceremony tomorrow. Don't forget to iron my shirt, Scene declared, ending the conversation abruptly. Left with no choice, I contacted Jessica. Hello, Jessica. About tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow? Yeah, I'm borrowing Scene. Thanks, but won't Matt mind? What are you talking about, Sophie? I haven't even told Matt about the graduation. I'll tell him after it's over. I was astonished. Jessica hadn't informed Matt about any of the press school events, and it seemed Scene was being passed off as the father. What are you thinking doing this? It's incredibly disrespectful to Matt, just because you're childhood friends. Hey, what's wrong? You seem kind of scary, Sophie. Well then, I'm counting on you for tomorrow, Jessica. Jessica cut off my words by hanging up the phone. I was trembling with anger towards her. But in the end, I ironed Scene's shirt, prepared his tie, and properly saw him off the next morning to Mia's graduation ceremony. After this incident, Jessica and Scene began going out together more often. What used to be once a month became once a week, and before I knew it, it turned into every 2 days. Matt seemed to have noticed something. One day when Scene and Jessica were out, he visited my house. I'm sorry for coming by so late at night. There's something that's been bothering me. Is it about those two? Yes, take a look at this. Matt showed me the GPS records he apparently installed in Jessica's car. The records showed they visited a lodging facility about 3 times a week. The dates were all days when Scene went out with her. The meaning was clear just by looking at Matt's face. What do you want to do, Matt? I asked. I want to take revenge on them. I feel the same. I can't forgive them for betraying us after all this time together. We secretly began to plan our revenge against the two of them. First, I focused on increasing my income. I had reduced my work to focus on household chores after getting married, so my income had decreased significantly. Matt adjusted to work from home, and when Jessica and Scene were out, he brought Mia to my house, and we both took care of her. Jessica and Scene, completely unaware of our relationship, made it easy to gather evidence, just when we had enough evidence to execute. Our revenge, we were shocked to learn the truth about Mia. After much deliberation, Matt and I decided to wait with our revenge until she became an adult. We both didn't want to hurt young Mia. However, after waiting for 10 years, I was struck by a serious illness. It wasn't strange if I had to be hospitalized for a year or 2, although I could work from the hospital room. I had to reduce the workload. I immediately informed Matt of this and then discussed it with Sean. I see. I'll come to visit you sometimes. His response was as casual as any other conversation. He showed no interest in my condition or the illness. From his attitude, I painfully realized that Sean had lost his love for me, and it seemed to be true, as he only visited me once or twice a month. Time passed, and Mia turned 15. She had been visiting me almost every day since I was hospitalized, but after her 15th birthday, something felt off. I asked Matt if he knew anything, but he didn't seem to know either. When I asked Mia, she just kept saying, "Don't worry about it." We were only left wondering, but the truth would be revealed by Sean, who unusually came to visit my hospital room. Hey, it's been a long time. Scene entered the room without knocking. It's been a month since we last met. Scene, who had changed a lot during the time I hadn't seen him, became quite flashy. Jessica followed him in without a word of concern for my health. Sean demanded a divorce. I'm divorcing a wife who does neither housework nor job. There will be no division of property. That's the situation. So, Sophie, please take care of it. Sean said this with a smirking smile, while Jessica also grinned, clinging to his arm. I see. All right, divorce it is. When I agreed readily, Sean was surprised, but quickly exchanged smiles with Jessica. Sean's straightforward nature worked in my favor. It allowed my plan to proceed without any hitches. After the divorce was finalized, I began my plan for revenge against them. By the time I accomplish it, my illness should have improved. Their crying faces will be my celebration. I immediately called Matt, informing him of my transfer to another hospital and that a lawyer would handle any dealings with Sean and Jessica. Following this, Matt moved close to my new hospital, bringing Mia with him, and Mia started visiting me often. Although Maya still looked sad, she came to see me every day, which really made me happy. Then I instructed Jan to dispose of my belongings left in the house. I had already brought all my necessary personal items to the hospital room, and I didn't want anything touched by those two in my new life. After settling into my new hospital and Matt's move, I received a call from Sean. It was during the few minutes I was away from my room, but there were already 30 missed calls on my smartphone. A bit annoyed, I picked up the phone when it rang again. "Yes, what is it?" "Finally, you answered. Hey, what the heck is going on?" I could hear a real estate agent sounding lost in the background of the agitated Sean, and Jessica was yelling loudly, which made my mood sink. "What do you mean?" "What's going on?" "The house." "Why are we being kicked out?" Sean raised his voice, clearly not considering any fault on their part. I answered calmly, "Of course. After all, that was the room I rented." Sean seemed to have forgotten the room we lived in was rented by me for work. When I started running independently at that time, I couldn't afford a separate workspace, so I rented a room that served as both a home and a workplace. Sean, whose income was insufficient for living alone, ended up living in my work/home space. However, Sean never paid the rent or utility bills for that room. Although he gave me living expenses monthly, it was never enough to maintain the room. It's unfortunate for them, but the room is already canceled. The hospital I transferred to was quite far from the house. That's why, after being told about the divorce, I went ahead with the cancellation process. I didn't contact Sean because the real estate agent, who understood the situation, promised to do it for me. It seems Matt and Mia suddenly disappeared too, and their house might have been sold. What are we supposed to do? Where to live now? Well, maybe you should just stay in a business hotel for now. As I started working with my smartphone on speaker mode, Scene, clearly irritated, said, "Don't be ridiculous. Pay me $2,000 a month as an apology for selling the house." I was dumbfounded by my husband's nonsensical demand and remained silent, to which he raised his voice. "Hey, don't just stay quiet." I coldly replied, "No way paying you any money." Sean looked momentarily stunned, but then raised his voice again. I was getting fed up. "We're divorced and strangers now, so don't contact me anymore. From now on, let's communicate through lawyers." Wait, for their contact, what a lawyer. "Hey, waita." Although Sean seemed to want to continue talking, I cut off the call without caring. After ignoring several repeated calls, they finally stopped, but then, perhaps angry that I didn't answer his calls, Scene started ignoring the lawyer's contacts. I knew he was somewhat childish, but I didn't think he was the type to call trouble for others without care. Scene's self-centered attitude made me sigh deeply. Months later, having temporarily left the hospital where I was in a better state, I visited Sean's parents' home. In front of me, Sean and Jessica were cowering in fear. "You talking to my parents like that is unfair," he said. "Well, I just came to report the divorce," I replied. Scene glared at me for a moment, but shrank again under his father's gaze. I had been quite close to Sean's parents. I would go out with them and have meals together, even without Sean. Given how well they treated me, I felt I had to explain the divorce. "Scene, I've heard everything from Sophie. Is it true that you're remarrying Jessica?" "Yes, Jessica, Mia, and I are going to start a new family together." "What are you thinking? Your family is Sophie. We're divorced." "She's not my family anymore." His father frowned at those words. Sean shook his head as if there was nothing he could do, and then handed me some documents. They were bills from a nearby luxury hotel. "What's this?" "It's the bill for the hotel where we stayed." Sean pointed at the documents on the table as if it was obvious, but the next moment he fell to the ground with a loud slap. His mother stood there panting, hands still raised. "What are you doing? I didn't raise you to be like this." Sean furrowed his brow. It seemed the words from his mother were completely unexpected. Jessica, next to him, had a similar expression on her face. "Why are you so upset? Sean's family is just going through some changes. Plus, you're getting a grandchild related by blood. Aren't you happy about that?" "Related by blood? You can't be serious." My mother-in-law stared at Jessica in disbelief, then glanced at me. She and my father-in-law knew I didn't want children, yet they had always loved me as if I were their own daughter. Jessica, too, was dear to them, being my son's childhood friend. I remember her often expressing frustration about being treated differently from me as a daughter-in-law, but there was no doubt they cherished her. I knew my mother-in-law wouldn't be pleased with this situation. Jessica must understand that as well. "You've always loved Mia. Now she's going to be your granddaughter. You're happy about that, right? She's the child of a girl I've known since she was little. Of course, she's dear to me, and it's Sean's child as well." Jessica showed no signs of remorse. In fact, she seemed genuinely puzzled by her lack of understanding, which sent chills down my spine. Then someone who had been silent spoke up. "Stop it. It's disgusting." Mia, who had been fiddling with her smartphone in the corner, spoke without looking up. The room fell silent. "My father is only Dad. Whether or not we're related by blood doesn't matter. But Sean attended all the events for you." "I know all about that from Dad finding out after the events or being kept in the dark about them entirely. But Dad always said I was his daughter. That's why I'm his daughter, not yours," Maya said coldly to Jessica, then sat next to me, seemingly on the verge of tears. "I was worried you'd hate me when you found out, but Dad assured me you wouldn't. That's why I came here," Maya said, relieved, hugging me dearly. "The child born from Sean and Jessica's affair is a fact, but she's the girl I've cared for 15 years. It's impossible not to feel affection." By the way, I turned to Jessica. "Didn't you find it odd that I wasn't surprised to learn Mia is Sean's daughter?" As Jessica gasped in surprise, another person entered the room. "I've known all along for the past 10 years. Matt's sudden appearance clearly unsettled Jessica. She had been seeking a divorce from him recently, citing irreconcilable differences. "I was truly shocked when you proposed divorce. Let me remind you, we're still not divorced. You haven't filed for it. Have you noticed?" Jessica had assumed Matt would handle all the divorce procedures. It's appalling how she leaves everything to others. So Jessica is still my wife, and of course Mia is still my daughter. After the divorce, she won't be my wife anymore, obviously. "Mia will always be my daughter," Jessica said, turning towards Mia. Mia frowned and, gripping my hand tightly, said, "I don't want to be her daughter anymore." At this reaction, Jessica was at a loss for words and glared at me angrily. That's when Sean started laughing loudly. "I see, so you two are like that. But even so, you can't live on Matt's income alone. Don't misunderstand, and Matt's income is twice what Jessica thinks it is," I said. "No way, you're joking. Plus, with your illness, it's impossible for you to work alone. It'll just be a miserable end." At Sean's big misunderstanding, I couldn't help but laugh. My sudden laughter made Sean's veins bulge in anger. "Oh, you didn't know about my income." I said, It's probably not much anyway." "Oh, really? I make $900,000 a year." Sean's eyes widened, and he stood there with his mouth open in shock. Jessica was also motionless next to him. "In fact, over the last 10 years, I have gained fame as a children's book author." I have published essays, been interviewed, and soon one of my works is going to be made into a movie. My income had skyrocketed. That's a lie. It's not. Look here. I showed Jessica the screen of my smartphone displaying my bank account's deposit records. Seeing the large monthly deposits, Jessica was speechless. "Hey, Sophie, let's try again." "What? What are you talking about?" Blinded by the amount of money, Sean and the furious Jessica, I watched their exchange with a detached gaze and said, "If you two are planning to remarry, feel free. It's your life, Sophie." "Hey, wait." Of course, I ignored him. I held Mia's hand, greeted my in-laws, and left their house. Later, I heard that Sean, who had been working at my father-in-law's company, was often going out under the guise of business and ultimately got fired. He tried to contact me several times, but since I always reported it to my father-in-law, eventually he stopped trying to reach out. Jessica got divorced and lost custody. It seems she lost interest in Sean, who could no longer afford luxuries, and she stopped chasing him. Disowned by her family, I heard she lives alone in an old flat. Having never worked after marriage and with a personality of pushing responsibilities onto others, she couldn't find a full-time job. Still, to earn a living, she seems to be getting by on multiple part-time jobs. Since entering high school, Mia has been diligently studying every day with the hope of attending a prestigious university abroad in the future. With her serious personality, she has told me that her dream is to eventually translate my picture books and spread them around the world. As for myself, the picture books I've drawn are being turned into an anime, and I'm currently receiving proposals for merchandise. My health is improving steadily, although I'm still hospitalized. My doctor has mentioned that I might be able to be discharged next year. Hoping for our happy days and future, I continue to write stories today.